peace and blessings to you. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are these two brothers sitting to my right. We are so delighted to have the Hazelrigg Brothers on. We're going to go deep with them today. It's going to be a fun interview. But before we do that, hey, let's do this and talk about Vocal. As you know, all of our videos are sponsored by the great, wonderful people at Vocal. Vocal is the only beverage on the planet which is designed to soothe, refresh, and restore your voice. So if you talk all day or sing all night, you got to go to drinkvocal.com to find out more. These guys aren't singers, at least, you know, maybe we can get them to sing on the show, but go to Vocal. That's the only instrument you can't buy is your voice. I'm talking today, and I'm excited to do so, to the wonderful Hazelrigg Brothers. I'm talking to Geoff and George, only I don't know which order they're sitting in, so they're going to have to introduce themselves.
What's up, Jerry?
What's up? So, which Hazelrigg brother are you?
Well, you have to guess.
All right, I'm going to say you are probably Geoff.
No, I'm not. Actually, neither of us is Geoff.
Okay. Okay.
This is my Steinway here. So I'm George. It's Joff.
Joff.
Yeah.
So nobody's Geoff, is Joff. And I tried so hard with the enunciation. Okay, interview over. We got to scrap it and start. Well, it's great to have you guys on, man. It's been an interesting process. I believe I met you maybe over the radio a year ago on
probably a year ago. Yeah.
Trish Hennessy's podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you very briefly what happened to me. I think Trish brought me on to the show because she thought maybe I would have some questions for you. At least that's the way it felt. And I didn't have any questions at all because I didn't know of your music. But here's what happened. She started playing track after track of your CD, Songs We Like, and I absolutely fell in love. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm a huge fan of innovation. And you guys, your approach to the songs you selected, your approach to the recording, and from her talking to you, your approach to life, I was just absolutely intrigued. So thank you for really pouring into me because I'm a huge fan of your music.
Well, it was good to meet you on that show. I'm glad it kept things rolling for us, and it's been great to get to know you a little bit over the last year or two, and your music as well, and all these great things that you do for the music community at large, and this vocal thing, which is
the vocal thing is going to hit up, man. January. I'm waiting for 2019. It's going to hit the streets, and we have some great endorsements coming up, so we're ready for that. Now, you guys are the definition of EntreMusicians too, because you have a company called Hazelrigg Industries.
Right.
Market and manufacturing high-end audio gear.
That's right.
Would you tell me a little bit about that?
Boy, it's a lot of work and a lot of headache, and you meet a lot of people.
Just don't make a lot of money.
Don't make much money.
Well, just like an EntreMusician, you know.
Yeah, no, you know, we're such maniacs about the sound that we capture. You know, like our instruments are everything, and then what we have to do is we have to record our instruments in a way that you can hear what we're hearing.
I see.
So it's a big process, the whole thing.
That's actually how we got into that. I mean, it's basically we wound up with an electronics company in search of a recorded sound that we could actually live with. Mm-hmm. You know, we'd play live and it would feel good and everybody would say, oh, this is great, you know, and we'd come back into the studio and put things down, and it just wasn't conveying what we wanted it to convey, and it was hard to pinpoint what that was. I mean, it was impossible to pinpoint what that was at the time, and we were just going through different setups and different gear and different techniques of how we're capturing this stuff, and I mean, this goes back even before the trio, because, you know, we were record producers and trying to do stuff and on a shoestring budget, and that it'd have to be good enough to compete with major labels or, you know, bigger budget stuff. And it's like, I don't know, how do we do this? And so we're reinvesting half the money we make doing these jobs on gear and trying to figure it out. And Joff started building gear for us because it was a lot cheaper than going and buying it. And then he wound up getting a job with Doug Fern as an assembler. Just putting together these machines. Actually, is that plugged in? Can you grab that and put it in the shot? I'll show you one of these.
Yeah.
One of these machines here. But so, you know, we'd have like an API preamp, and then we'd sell the API preamp and have enough money to buy parts to build 2 more API preamps.
Wow.
And then we got into this stuff.
This is one of our biggest, most expensive products. It's a 4-channel microphone preamp.
Wow.
And it's got a lot of tubes on the inside and a lot of other fancy stuff on the inside.
Oh boy. I tell you what, my business partner, Jerry Thompson, would love to check that out because he's a preamp and microphone freak.
Huh.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we have to have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
We should just mail you out a preamp, man.
Come on with it. I'll give you the address.
You know, the caveat is, once you hear the stuff, you can't unhear it.
I hear you.
With it for life, and then you know, you've got divorce attorneys and, you know, bankruptcy lawyers and all this stuff. You know, that nobody wants that, man.
Right. Absolutely. Now, I think that your association with is it Blue Coast Records, Blue Coast Recordings, is because of their dedication to high-end audio files. Is that correct? That one of the reasons you're with them?
Yeah, I mean, Cookie Marenko is kind of a bit of a pioneer in that. She's not a bit of a pioneer. She is a pioneer in that field. And we met her a couple of years ago.
I think it was only last year at the NAMM show.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but you know, she's just as crazy about sound as we are, you know, and immediately it was like we had a connection with her over that, you know.
So she's big on the DSD format, direct stream digital. For consumers, that would mean SACD. And in our estimation, it is the best recording and audio dissemination format ever devised. I mean, to us, it sounds right. I mean, it sounds, probably get some audiophiles upset, but when you actually source it from a DSD recording and then play it back in DSD, I mean, it even beats out anything analog to us, even good records. Although we've heard some very high resolution vinyl cut from DSD masters. A friend of ours, Jim Stern, from Earful, mastering in Arizona,
Phoenix.
is into doing this, and those recordings are absolutely phenomenal sounding coming off a record.
You know, people have no idea. Everybody listens to music off their iPhones or iPods, and we've been doing this for like 15 years now of iPods, and that's what everyone has become accustomed to, and people have no idea what they're missing. They have no idea. You know, once you listen to this stuff, it's like once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It's it's an experience, you know.
No, I understand. I think 30 years ago, the big thing was DMP. If you can remember, digital music products, Flim and the BBs, and there were a lot of other esoteric bands that were on that label because of the DDD on the CD, and it just, you know, the dynamics and everything just kind of jumped out at you, and they were going direct to disc actually. But yeah, I I remember GRP kind of took a step down from that, Dave Grusin and Larry Rosen. So, you know, I'm not into the technical aspects of it, but from a end user, yeah, I noticed the difference immediately.
Right.
So
I got to hang out with Dave Grusin when I was a teenager.
You used to hang out with Dave Grusin?
Well, I got to hang out with him for a week. Him and his brother Don.
Don, yeah,
pianist as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was at a conference for a week with my father when I was probably 17 or 18.
Well, that's what we want to get into. I want to get into your family structure because you guys are an anomaly to me, being that I'm just knowing you. And I told you I was working out at the gym to your music, which is like, oh, that's an oxymoron right there, but really good stuff. But Don Grusin, absolutely. I have Raven CD and the Zephyr CD and just brilliant stuff. So I don't know, great minds think alike. But now your father, is he a musician?
Well, he plays a little bit, but he's well, I guess he's an aerospace engineer by training, and then he just retired a year ago from National Science Foundation after 35 years of giving away your tax money, out of which he funded programs that affect our lives right this moment, actually.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Now you guys are based in PA, so or from Doylestown, PA, but you mostly work in New Jersey, correct?
No. We live in Doylestown.
You live in Doylestown. Okay.
Yeah, we grew up in Princeton.
I see.
Yeah. So we operate out of here. Our shop is in town, and this is the studio here.
Yeah. Where does John sit? Does he give drum lessons? That guy is like excellent.
He does actually. He teaches in town.
Yeah,
I see the kid right over there.
That's where he sits.
Yeah.
When we record. So.
Yeah, you're actually seeing the entirety of the space that we use for capturing the trio.
Man, that's fantastic stuff, though. It really is, man. I recommend everybody to get songs we like, which is, it just will turn you around. Your approach, as I talked about at the beginning, to choosing, Led Zeppelin and Sting and Jimi Hendrix. Here's a couple questions I want to ask. And first of all, I want to ask, who's the elder brother? You want me to guess on that too? I can't guess.
I am.
You're the older. Okay, so most of the selections of how you do things, is that, in that brother dynamic, do you agree mostly on the approach for the songs or the selections that you do either for recording or stage, or what's that process? It's a long,
do we agree? I think we hash a lot of it out playing it, so it's a long process to get to, like, for instance, what you hear on the CD, it's a long time of playing those songs and developing the arrangements and the parts and the flow and whatnot. And then we even play, since putting the album out, we play some of those songs a little bit different now since then, because they've sort of evolved since. Yeah.
I would say that, well, most of the time when it starts, it generally starts with a joke or something, like somebody will be noodling around and other one will say, wait, what is that?
Oh, that sounds like that song, or
or
it reminds us of that another song, or hey, let's do such and such.
Right. Like so we play Black Magic Woman with the trio, and sometimes we'll end a set on it just because there's a big drum solo at the end, and John gets to do his thing. And we started to play that song because we were playing a completely different song. We were playing Synchronicity 1 by the Police.
Right.
And we would get to the end of that, and I joked around, with this kind of Zarathustra kind of ending thing to it, which either came out of that song, out of Black Magic Woman, or out of Carnival 9 by ELP. Either way, it's the same thing. And then we would go, we started tagging the end of Black Magic Woman, you know, the end out solo section on the end of that Police tune. Mm-hmm. And then one day it was just like, well, why don't we just play the Santana song? And there it was. So,
wow.
Other things, you know, I went to see Ian Anderson in concert, and the next day I was here working with Joff, and one of us hit that bass line. I think maybe you hit the bass line.
Yeah, maybe.
I was the one who went to the concert. He was the one who hit the bass line. I said, wait a minute, what is that? I know that. Yeah, of course. I saw it last night.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, they come from different places, and sometimes there's songs that we pick because I like the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like we do Throw Out Your Gold Teeth too. You know, Steely Dan, and I always love the first verse of that, you know, because he's describing the Hells Angels.
Oh yeah. Donald Fagen is he's an anomaly too. So I see you guys migrate to, you know, musicians who have that innovative approach. It's not cookie cutter with you guys at all.
Right.
Well, you know, it's hard to pick. There's a lot that has to be inherent in a song for it to work in the format. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sophisticated, but it has to have certain elements that will help it translate into an instrumental format. Mm-hmm. And one as limited as this. From an orchestration point of view, we just don't have a lot to work with here. I mean, it's 3 instruments.
Sure. But you fill up that sonic space very well. I mean, your voicings and the phrasings that you guys...
That's all working the arrangement, though. That's why it takes years for us to develop material, you know?
Years.
Well, I mean...
Years. It doesn't... Wow. You know, I mean...
There's some songs that we play that... I don't know. I mean, I can't think of a single song that we play that we played for less than 6 months that we really feel like we have a grasp on. There's material that we've worked on for, you know, half of a decade, and we still make changes to the arrangement.
Yeah, well, sure. The flip side of that is there are songs that we've done in shows having never discussed playing them until the moment that we started playing them in a show. And that's always fun. Yeah. I think we played Ziggy Stardust the day that David Bowie died.
Yeah. But the nice thing with John is he's our age. He grew up in the same time and listening to a lot of the same stuff. So, you know, we can pull these songs out from when we were kids that like maybe we haven't played in 20 years.
Right.
And he's on it, you know?
Yeah.
He's right there with us. So.
And I really dig his feel. You know, you tell him he has a new fan. I used to call myself a drummer, but now I just play drums, and sometimes the drums play me. You know, that guy is absolutely dynamite. He is on point. How long have you been together as a trio then?
It's December now, right? Which means just about exactly 4 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Which is probably the longest time we've worked with any single drummer ever.
Is that right? Why is that? You got something to say about drummers? I mean, no. Next question.
I think it's more what they've got. It's more what they've got to say about us, I think.
Well, you know, here's a funny story about Steely Dan. You knew that the musicians were just afraid to audition for them because Walter and you know Donald were just like, we need it like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that if you didn't fit that, I don't care how bad you were or how many chops you had, this is the sound. So you guys may be the same way. I don't know. I'm not going to audition.
There's specific design objectives with the trio.
And he fits that to a T, I'm sure.
You know, he was able to adapt to it. Most players don't really want to do that. And you know, I'll go back to the space that we're sitting in here. Part of our recording process is the only things that are connected to electricity in the room when we're recording are the recorders, the mic preamp, and a couple light bulbs. There's no headphones, there's no monitoring, there's no speakers, no instruments are plugged into the wall. There's no electricity as far as that.
There's no reverb.
Yeah, no reverb. It's just the room.
Right. And so he has to play drums, you know, over here with the tail end of the Steinway that way, and Joff's bass here, and Joff's bass isn't plugged in. So, I mean, if he whacks a snare drum too hard, he doesn't hear what else is going on. Now, doesn't mean that he can't come up and play aggressively, because he often does, but he has to do it in a way where he's not stomping on anything else, and it's a high skill level, and he's really good at it.
You guys sound great, I gotta tell you. Now, may I ask, what age were you when you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that music was it, that this is where we are?
That was never even a thought process.
From the earliest.
Well, it's always just, you know, it's what you do, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was 3 when I started playing. So, I mean, it was just never even
a consideration.
It was never even a discussion. Nobody ever said, well, maybe you shouldn't do that or whatever. You know, it was just.
And so what about your parents then, when they discovered that the talent was there and they just honed in on it and, you know, supported it? There's some musicians that tell the story of, you got to get a real job, but you guys never had to deal with that, right?
Getting a real job?
I mean, from a parental perspective, where I am in Northeast Ohio, it was all about work and you do the music on the side.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that. I mean, we grew up in Princeton, and there was a lot of resource for as far as education was concerned. Mm-hmm. When I was born, my parents bought this little ranch house outside of Princeton. Little ranch house. And my mom wanted a piano, but it wasn't very, you know, the house wasn't big enough to support something like this beast over here. Uh-huh. And they had been listening to a lot of Baroque music and harpsichord records and E-powered bigs and Gustav Leonhardt records and stuff like that when my mother was pregnant with me. And in the next town over, Hopewell, was this renowned harpsichord builder, Chris Bannister. And so my parents, being a little eclectic, commissioned an instrument, and it showed up when I was 3.
Wow.
And my father played a little bit. You know, he had piano chops, and my grandmother was actually a pretty good pianist. I grew up playing duets with her till she was well in her 90s, actually. Wow. And he was playing a Scarlatti piece over and over and over again. And one day he was sitting down playing the Scarlatti piece, and he gets up and goes in the other room and watches TV, and he hears part of the Scarlatti piece coming from the harpsichord. And I had figured out, you know, this kind of, you know, whatever thing. Right. And so he thought, well, let me do something about this. And he had an aerospace engineering consulting company in Princeton at the time. And they had need for somebody to program the computer. The thing is, it was the 70s. There was no such thing as a computer science major. But IBM had commissioned a study to try to figure out who had the aptitude to understand code, how to read and write, you know, write code. And it turned out that overwhelmingly musicians had a handle on this better than anybody else.
Wow.
And so my father hired a guy who was a grad student in organ and harpsichord at Westminster Choir College, which was in town, to program the computer. And he went to him and said, "I'll tell you what, you're in grad school, so I know you're starving to death. If you teach my kid twice a week, I'll feed you all you can eat."
Wow.
And so I started taking lessons with him twice a week.
Wow.
I was about 4 at that point. I had gone through the neighborhood piano teacher kid before that, but that didn't last very long. And so from then on, the house was sort of music education centric. We both studied at Westminster Choir College Conservatory and had serious teachers, and we grew up singing in the choir in town. That was a very serious choir in Episcopal church.
Wow.
Royal School church music thing. So we were each head chorister, at respective times.
Yeah.
And then wound up studying with Laurie Altman. He was a jazz composer, pianist. It's not really just jazz; he's just sort of a composer.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, there were tremendous resources in Princeton to deal with anybody who thought they wanted a career in this, and we were just driven around every day and thrown into this, that, or the other thing to.
So give me some clarification then, as this this education is going on and you're getting this broad experience in music, then how does that electronics kind of tie into that? Where did that fit? That
didn't come until a lot later, until we got into sort of more like vintage instruments, Wurlitzers, Rhodes, that sort of thing, and getting into production, music production. We're making records for other people.
Now, how old were you then at that, at that
like early 20s?
Well, I actually, the music production thing started before that.
Yeah, you're right, because
I got kicked out of high school, and then and then for what would have been my senior year, I went to a program in New York City for audio engineering production. And so we got into the, hanging a microphone, recording things.
Yeah.
About then. The electronics thing just was.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's sort of out of necessity of getting into some older equipment that would break.
Like everything along this wall over here, I don't think you can see it, but there's a Moog synthesizer and another analog thing there and a couple electric pianos, and there's a Hammond over there on the other side, and every third time you turn them on, there's something wrong. So
I see. So now, with respect to music, and you can see me crisscrossing back and forth, but with respect to music, then the Hammond and the Moog and all of that, do you intend to at some point incorporate some of those electronics into your music, or?
We've done that. We had a group called Collective Acoustics. I should say we have a group called Collective Acoustics because we're actually still doing work with them. And we did a few records that were could almost consider to be kind of electronic records, except that it was all live playing. And so, it was all electric pianos and synthesizers and even some drum machine stuff. And
wow. Well, tell me what's next then for Hazelrigg Brothers, because you've got Songs We Like, you got the EP, you got some fascinating stuff on YouTube, the live stuff that's brilliant. What's the next step?
Well, we're in the middle of recording our next one right now, actually. We're about halfway through it.
Got a title?
Yeah, but we probably don't.
We shouldn't disclose that because it'll give the whole thing away.
It's too much information.
It's a big, it's a concept record.
All right.
Yeah, based on somebody else's work. And
Yeah. We've spent a lot of the fall too, sort of, we see the electronics thing and the music thing it's all the same to us. Like everything we do, it's all sort of toward a single goal of really getting good recordings out and sort of establishing ourselves as artists. But we've been doing a lot of talks this fall about our recording philosophy, and it just wraps in the, how we record, what we record with. We do a live demonstration with our own, with our group playing to show how we get what we're getting. So it's, so we're always working. It's not just like, oh, here's our next record. Now here's our next record. It's like, we're working on this record. Oh, and also we've got a couple artists that we're working with on the side to get
we're producing a bunch of EPs right now, actually. A couple different singers and a guitar player, among other things, right? And we do sessions. I mean, we do sessions for other people, and they roll in and we work with them.
It's a wonderful life, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's a wonderful life, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's busy.
Yeah. But you guys seem to take it all in stride. Now, what advice would you give the younger Hazelrigg brothers coming up who are like 13 and 14 years old? What would you say to them?
Marry into money. I don't know.
You got to study as much music as you can. And you can't take anything at face value because somebody told you that's how it was. I think that a unique advantage that we have, I mean, in the short term, it was more of a disadvantage because we were very scattered and not very focused on, single point of where we were going. But it's all starting to pay off now that we studied so many different things. I mean, we studied early music, we studied choral music, we studied jazz, we've done scores of rock records, and Joff toured with a major label rock artist for a while. He did the opening date of a tour for Brian Ferry once. I played a lot of contemporary jazz and played with the Granger Brothers and a bunch of singers and
then you've got a harpsichord record.
Yeah, Joff engineered a harpsichord record that I did with Gavin Black.
Wow.
The harpsichords.
So it seems like it's all over the place. We're studying Baroque, we're studying modern, we're doing rock, we're doing jazz. But sort of at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. It's all music,
Yeah.
So,
and not being pigeonholed into one way of thinking.
Absolutely.
Is really it's a luxury. We've been doing the Sunday night jazz jam session in Doylestown a lot recently, playing in the house band, and I don't really think we practiced playing any kind of straight ahead stuff in a while, but it always feels fresh going into that. Like I can just come up with completely different ideas all the time and just see what works and what doesn't, but never having to think like, oh, well, I'm a straight ahead jazz player. This is what I need to do.
Sure.
Right, or that's just the single language that we speak in music, straight ahead jazz.
Right, because you don't. And even though you may be doing a jazz cut, all of those influences are just flowing through you. I can tell you, I can hear it when I listen to your music. I can't believe a half an hour has flown by so quickly. You guys are very easy to talk to, and I have more questions. So I hope that at some point you'll give us another opportunity to hang out with you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you bringing me into your studio. I apologize for mispronouncing Joff's name. Hard. But
no, this is a daily occurrence, man.
Is that right? Well, I'll never do it again as long as I'm Black. Okay, so it'll be on point. But we have been here spending this time with the wonderful Hazelrigg Brothers, songs we like, and the new EP. And I really do. I have more questions. So maybe another opportunity will happen for us to get together again soon. And I really appreciate you. We are going to be in touch. Thank you for becoming a friend of mine, and keep making that great music.
Well, thanks for having us on here.
I appreciate you both. Well, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jere B. That's Joff. That's George over there by the piano. They make some excellent music. Go to their website, HazelriggBrothers.com, and check them out for yourselves. You're going to absolutely love what you hear. Peace and blessings to you. We'll see you again soon.